Next, we shift to South Africa, where President Cyril Ramaphosa is warning that white supremacy is threatening the nation's unity. This amid worsening relations with the United States over claims of a white genocide and a bubbling G20 controversy. President Ramaphosa was speaking at a conference of the co-ruling African National Congress Party, the party of Nelson Mandela that defeated white minority rule in South Africa 3 decades ago.
The propaganda of these false claims has real implications for our sovereignty, international relations, and national security. It is essential that we counter this narrative and defeat this agenda through direct and frank engagement, mobilizing broad support for the South African vision of non-racialism, reconciliation and transformation.
A single statement by the United States President has sparked a global backlash. Comments made about South Africa quickly drew sharp responses from government officials, international observers, and fact-checkers worldwide. What exactly was said, why did it trigger diplomatic concern, and how do verified facts compare to the claim? This report breaks down the reaction, the evidence, and the potential impact on global relations.
A recent public statement by the United States President about South Africa triggered swift international controversy, drawing criticism from governments, analysts, and civil society groups across multiple regions. The comment, delivered during a political appearance and later amplified through online platforms, suggested that South Africa was experiencing systematic persecution of a specific racial group. Within hours, the claims spread globally, prompting accusations of misinformation, concerns about racial tension, and renewed debate over the responsibility of political leaders when addressing sensitive international issues. The remark stood out not only for its subject matter, but also for its timing. South Africa has been navigating complex social and economic challenges rooted in decades of inequality, and race remains a sensitive topic shaped by a long history of institutional discrimination. Against this backdrop, the statement was widely seen as oversimplifying a nuanced situation and presenting it in a way that risked inflaming tensions both within South Africa and internationally. Media outlets around the world quickly reported on the reaction, noting that the comment revived earlier controversies linked to race and foreign policy rhetoric. The background to the controversy is important for understanding why the response was so strong. During previous political campaigns and public appearances, the United States President has made a number of statements touching on race, immigration, and foreign affairs that generated debate beyond national borders. Some of these remarks focused on crime, land ownership, or demographic change in other countries, often framed in broad or dramatic terms. Supporters have argued that such statements reflect a willingness to challenge established narratives, while critics have countered that they frequently lack context and rely on selective or disputed information. South Africa, in particular, has appeared in past discussions related to land reform and crime. Land reform policies there aim to address historical dispossession by redistributing land more equitably, a process that has been debated domestically and internationally. While crime is a serious issue affecting many communities in South Africa, experts and official statistics show that it impacts people across racial and economic lines. Previous references to these topics by foreign political figures have occasionally been criticized for overlooking these complexities, and the latest comment was viewed through that same lens. South African officials responded promptly and firmly. Government representatives rejected the claim, describing it as inaccurate and misleading. Official statements emphasized that the country's constitution guarantees equal rights and protections to all citizens, regardless of race, and that allegations of systematic racial persecution were not supported by evidence. Diplomatic channels were reportedly used to convey concern about the impact such statements could have on international perceptions and bilateral relations. Leaders from across South Africa's political spectrum echoed these sentiments. Some warned that repeating unverified claims could undermine efforts to promote social cohesion and reconciliation in a society still addressing the legacy of institutional discrimination. Others highlighted that crime and economic inequality remain national challenges, but stressed that framing them along racial lines distorts reality and risks deepening divisions. Institutions responsible for human rights and social research also released commentary pointing to data that contradicts the assertion of targeted racial violence. Beyond South Africa, the international reaction was swift. Political leaders from several regions expressed concern that the claim could fuel misunderstanding about South Africa and the African continent more broadly. International organizations focused on human rights and conflict prevention cautioned against rhetoric that simplifies complex social issues into racial narratives. Analysts noted that such statements, when coming from influential figures, can resonate far beyond their original audience, shaping public opinion and policy debates in unintended ways. Global media coverage reflected this concern. News outlets in Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Americas carried fact checks and expert interviews examining the accuracy of the statement. Many emphasized the importance of relying on verified data when discussing sensitive topics such as race, violence, and land ownership. Commentators also observed that the controversy highlighted ongoing challenges in the information environment, where claims can circulate rapidly online before being thoroughly examined. Fact-checking organizations and academic experts played a central role in the response. Using official crime statistics, independent research, and historical analysis, they concluded that there is no evidence of an organized campaign of racial persecution in South Africa. Studies consistently show that violent crime affects diverse communities and is closely linked to socioeconomic factors such as poverty, unemployment, and inequality. While certain types of crime may be concentrated in specific areas, experts caution against drawing sweeping conclusions based on isolated incidents or anecdotal reports. Historical context further complicates simplistic narratives. South Africa's past includes decades of legally enforced racial segregation that favored a minority population while marginalizing the majority. Since the end of that system, the country has worked through constitutional reforms, truth and reconciliation processes, and ongoing policy debates aimed at addressing inequality. Analysts stress that understanding current challenges requires acknowledging this history rather than framing present-day issues as a reversal of past injustices. The controversy also raised questions about political impact. For relations between the United States and South Africa, the episode introduced a moment of tension, even if formal diplomatic ties remain intact. South Africa is a significant economic and political partner in its region, and cooperation spans trade, public health, and security. Diplomatic observers noted that statements perceived as misrepresenting domestic conditions could complicate collaboration or require additional diplomatic engagement to repair trust. On the global stage, the comment added to broader discussions about how political rhetoric influences international diplomacy. Allies and partners often look to leading nations for signals about shared values and priorities. When statements appear to rely on disputed claims, they can create uncertainty and prompt reassurance efforts from diplomats and officials. Analysts suggested that the episode underscores the importance of careful communication in an interconnected world where messages travel quickly and interpretations vary widely. Domestically, the political image of the United States president was also part of the conversation. Supporters viewed the reaction as evidence that challenging established views invites criticism, while opponents argued that the backlash demonstrated the risks of making claims without sufficient evidence. Political strategists observe that international controversies can have mixed effects on public perception, sometimes energizing a political base while alienating moderate or undecided audiences. The issue matters beyond the immediate news cycle because it illustrates how narratives about race and national identity can shape global discourse. South Africa's experience is often cited in discussions about reconciliation, inequality, and democratic transition. Mischaracterizing that experience can influence how other societies understand similar challenges, potentially reinforcing stereotypes or misunderstandings. Experts emphasize that responsible dialogue requires nuance, evidence, and respect for the perspectives of those directly affected. In the end, the controversy serves as a reminder of the power of words in international affairs. Statements made in one country can have far-reaching consequences, affecting diplomatic relationships, public opinion, and social cohesion elsewhere. As governments and societies grapple with complex issues of inequality and security, the reliance on accurate information and careful analysis becomes even more critical. The global reaction to this claim reflects a shared concern that public discourse, especially at the highest levels, should inform rather than inflame and contribute to understanding rather than division.